Ahoy! New World has an insane new update, as you can see here, and we are going to talk about it. Jokes aside, we're going to talk about 4 different things about New World, some good, some bad, that are related to the new patch and some other New World news today. Before we get into that, if you're interested in Path of Exile, I have a new channel for that. I will link that right here. You can check that out and subscribe there. And if you're interested in my streams, I'm streaming on Twitch TV/DukeSloth again, apparently. Let's start with some good news. New World actually has a new feature that was not originally in the patch notes. They added it later, but I think it's extremely good. If you go into settings and we scroll down here to game, then we have these new settings, the HUD scaling and the HUD margins. Now this is technically meant to be for someone playing on a wide screen, but we can absolutely make use of that as well as normal players. So what I personally am probably going to go with is this. I'm going to move up the margin on the bottom for the HUD, scale down the HUD to probably around 80%. You'll see why in just a second. And then the result will look something like this. Now, what you'll notice is the chat is really small now, but you can adjust the text size of the chat independent of everything else. So I can make that bigger again, even though the rest of the UI is smaller. And now I have my UI very, very centered, very close to my character, meaning I can see my health bar especially very, very well, my stamina bar whenever I'm doing anything, and I personally really, really like that. I know this won't be for everyone, some people will not like this at all, but I think this is great. I think this is very useful. And if you want to customize this further, you obviously can. Since we made everything smaller, we could, for example, pull in the side margins just a little bit, and then you'd see that some other elements here are a bit closer to the center of the screen as well. The chat would move along with that if this is something you like. I personally like it more to the other sides, but as far as it goes, I think there are some really cool things that you can do with this. If you have really poor eyesight, you can probably also do something like that. I wouldn't recommend it for anyone else though. You could also make your UI incredibly tiny, but at that point you might as well do the F10 and just hide it entirely because I can't see what's going on here anymore. Yeah, for me, I'm somewhere between these settings and these settings. Somewhere at this point is where I want my health bar and my stamina bar. I think this is going to be extremely useful. I'm always a big fan of having information close to the center of the screen. And to me, it also makes it feel like the screen is bigger, like I have more free room in terms of vision. I don't like that everything gets moved up. I wish we would have an option to keep these elements on the left side here at the bottom, but obviously you won't have that option. I mean, realistically, I probably prefer to hide these elements altogether and just have the chat there. I think that would be even better. But we'll work with what we got. I think as far as UI customization goes, this is more than we had ever before. So I'm somewhat happy with it at least. And I'm hoping that maybe in the future we get some more features. But even if not, just having the information close to your character, I think is fantastic. There is a new armor set in the game, which you can get from Alstrom's Cache, which is a Prime Gaming reward. The set itself is called Of a Corrupted King. So you have the pieces here. It's everything except a leg piece. And I think it looks pretty cool and it can probably work pretty nicely with some other sets as well. You can claim this with your Prime Gaming account on gaming.amazon.com. And you also get a new Great Axe here. This is what the Great Axe looks like in game. Elemental Band was meant to be fixed, but they had to temporarily disable it again because they need to fix it again. They say this perk will become available again once the issue is resolved. Keep in mind that once again, this is not just the perk. I'm going to demonstrate that here very quick. If I put on my set here with the Elemental Band, you see that by now I'm magnifying to con. That is at 306 con, so if I put on this one, I should barely get any extra. But as you can see, I'm getting, well, almost 40 extra, so 36 extra, because the Elemental Band is just entirely disabled, including the magnify and everything else, so do not use it until it's fixed. The Winter Convergence event is back, but it seems to come with an issue. So if you read the description here, to further incentivize the safety of Aeternum, the Winter Warrior will also drop 15 dark matter 3 times daily. This is correct. However, one of the drops from the Winter Warrior, and the one that most people are actually after, are the Warrior's Hail Spikes. It seems that this only drops as 1 drop per warrior now. I think this was changed last year. But as far as I'm aware, maybe I'm wrong here, I didn't really farm it much last year, but as far as I'm aware, you're still able to farm the warrior as much as you wanted to. This year, it seems that this cap here of the 15 dark matter is also tied to the cap for the warrior hail spikes. So far, multiple people have confirmed that they can only get them 3 times per day, and same for me. So I'm assuming that just is the general current version of it. And that's a problem, because if you look at the Warrior Hail Spikes, it's used in this recipe here, where you get 2 premium winter tokens. But you need 15 winter tokens to even get a single chromatic seal, which I think is on a 3-day cooldown. Apparently there's also a craft limit to these winter tokens now of 5 every 22 hours. I don't know if that's actually accurate, because you can't actually get that many in that time frame, so you have to specifically keep them in order to craft it that way. But either way, very messy, very impractical, and doesn't make sense to me, because I figured that events are supposed to be an easy way to get some chromatic seals, and now it's just annoying, and I think most people will just not bother, because it's almost easier to try and make some gold and get some faction tokens and buy chromatic seals a regular way instead. Or way easier if you're doing the Gorgon trade, because you're getting 3 per week already. There are, of course, other ways to farm the tokens. You can get some through the presents and all that, through the quest line. You can get some through farming various other resources like the presents and the gleamite, but really, I think the Winter Warrior himself was the way that most people would farm it, and everything else is just incredibly inconvenient and usually also not rewarding enough in terms of the amount that you're getting. So I don't think most people will be doing it, and I really don't know why it was made more difficult, or if this is even something that happened this year or maybe last year. So generally some good news and some bad news here. I care more about the UI changes than any of the others, though I do hope that they can sort out Elemental Band at some point in the future. If you want to hear more about New World, then consider subscribing and clicking the bell. If you want to hear more about Path of Exile 2, then feel free to check out my other channel that we linked right here. Thanks to all of my patrons for supporting this video. They get early training tips in return. And thank you for watching. Duke Sloth, out.